Welcome back to Maggi UK. This is Maggi. இன்னைக்கு நம்ம வந்திருக்க இடம் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா குயின் ஹவுஸ். இது வந்து 1616லேருந்து 1635 கட்டினாங்க. இதுதான் ராயல் ரெசிடென்ஸாக இருந்தது. இந்த குயின் ஹவுஸ் தான். இதுவும் வந்து ஃப்ரீ என்ட்ரி தான். நீங்கள் ஆன்லைனில் புக் பண்ணி வரணும். நம்ம வீடியோக்குள்ளே போகிறதுக்கு முன்னாடி இதான் ஃபஸ்ட் டைம் வீடியோ பார்க்குறீங்கன்னா ப்ளீஸ் லைக் ஷேர் சப்ஸ்கிரைப் டு மை சேனல். மறக்காமல் பெல் பட்டனை ப்ரெஸ் பண்ணுங்கள். அப்போ தான் என்னோடய எல்லா வீடியோஸும் உங்களுக்கு நோட்டிஃபிகேஷனாக வரும். வாங்க போய் பார்ப்போம். ஸோ அதனால் வந்து டக்குன்னு ஒரு பர்டிகுலர் டைமுக்கு 45 மினிட்ஸ் தான் இது. ஸோ அவங்களே நம்மளுக்கு சுற்றி காட்டுவாங்க. ஸோ நம்ம ஃபஸ்ட் ஃப்ளோருக்கு போகிறோம். Some monkey wallpaper.
Mommy, where's the lift?
Lift is here.
Huh?
Lift is down. So number 4 of the pen is the first floor. Present chambers.
It was commissioned for her as a special retreat in the grounds of what was then Greenwich Palace, just by the river. So if we look down here, you can see that the Queen's house was built in the classical style, and it was the first fully classical building to be built in England. So when this was first built, it was incredibly modern and new and exciting. And we have a lot of original features still remaining here. So the floor of the Great Hall is all original, made from white Italian and black Belgian marble. This balcony that you're standing on here is also original from the 1630s when the house was finished, and it even has its surviving original paintwork. So this was originally painted in bright white and gold, which were the colours of the French monarchy. So it was very fitting for when the house was finished for Henrietta Maria, Charles I's wife, who was French. So it's faded to this green colour over time, but originally this would have been bright white. And this surviving paint was discovered in the 1930s when conservators stripped off 24 layers of other paint which had been piled on top over the following centuries. Also, if you look to the ceiling, this would originally have been decorated very differently with a series of 9 paintings by an Italian artist called Orazio Gentileschi. They were taken down by Queen Anne, who wanted to give them as a present to her friend, the Duchess of Marlborough. So they're still in Marlborough House, which is on the Mall. But now we have this lovely new modern white and gold decoration of the ceiling. It's all made from gold leaf. And this was installed in 2016 to celebrate the 400th anniversary of the house by a man called Richard Wright, who is a Turner Prize winning British artist.
Cracked.
Okay, so, right, so...
Da.
Can you sit? Can you sit?
No, you can't sit here.
What about this?
Take a moment to absorb those. In the room after that, we have some painting of Greenwich through the ages, and then I shall meet you again in the Queen's Privy Chamber, and we'll talk a bit more about it. Unfortunately, we are suffering from an awful lot of our staff being pinged. So that's why we're running this way. Normally you would have a lot more freedom to go around the house, but doing tours like this just allows us to keep the house open and for as many people to see it as possible. So we do thank you all for your patience in this slightly unusual setup. But I was just going to tell you a bit more about this room that we're in here, which is one of the loveliest rooms in the house. This is the Queen's Privy Chamber, because we are making our way down the Queen's side of the upstairs here. Originally, when the house was built, it was actually built as a very odd design. It was a bridge going over a road which ran between Woolwich and Deptford. So if you saw those colonnades outside, that was where the road originally ran, right underneath the house. And originally there was only one bridge room in the centre connecting the two halves of the house on either side of the road. But in the 1660s there was a big refurbishment and they added this room and the one on the other side to the upstairs to make it a square shape and giving more access over the road. So at that time they created a queen side and a king side on the upstairs, and the general idea was that the rooms moved from the most public at the front, the very grand Queen's Presence Chamber that we were just in, going all the way through to the Queen's Bedchamber at the back. So the idea being that the better you knew the monarch, the further through the rooms you would be allowed to progress. So we're about halfway through here in the Queen's Privy Chamber. So this would be somewhere where the Queen would perhaps meet some of her favoured courtiers and things like that. So that being the case, we've got quite a lot of royals and their courtiers represented in here. It's a bit of a Tudor and Stuart's photo album in here. So just over in that corner there, we've got a lot of the Tudors on display together there. You can see Henry VII in the top left, Henry VIII over on the right, of course, Elizabeth I in the centre again, and the little boy in the bottom left is Edward VI, Henry VIII's only surviving legitimate son. We also have his other daughter over here, Mary II, in a rare surviving portrait of her with her husband, Philip II of Spain. And then in this corner, we have a few of the Stuarts. So when Elizabeth I died, King James VI of Scotland became James I of England, and he's accompanied here by his wife, Anne of Denmark, in the corner here, a lovely portrait of her. She is the lady who commissioned the Queen's house to be built. She was given the land in this area of Greenwich as an apology by James I because she accidentally shot his favourite dog when they were out hunting one day. The king was understandably upset, but got very angry and apparently shouted and swore at the Queen, which he quickly regretted, and gave her all the land in this area of Greenwich as an apology. So she did very well out of the whole situation and commissioned the Queen's house to be built. So although she didn't live to see it finished, unfortunately, she died, but it is thanks to Anne of Denmark that we're all standing here today. Okay, so there's a couple more small rooms coming up, so we're going to move through those as we just did, and we'll meet again in a larger space in the Queen's bedchamber. But some highlights to look out for in the next room here, we've got a lovely portrait of Queen Anne, who I mentioned gave the ceiling paintings in the Great Hall to her friend, the Duchess of Marlborough. And then in the next room we have some portraits of Admiral Horatio Nelson and his lover Emma Hamilton, and also a painting by Gainsborough, which is on loan to us along with lots of others from Woburn Abbey at the moment.
Parrot பாத்தியா? This is a colorful parrot. ஸோ இது உங்களோட ஃபேமிலி இன்ட்ரெஸ்ட் தான் இந்த மாதிரி கலெக்ட் பண்ணுறது, நேச்சுரல் ஹிஸ்ட்ரி. இதுதான் வந்து குயின்ஸ் பெட் சேம்பர். இதுதான் நம்மளுக்கு வந்து இந்த மாதிரி ஹிஸ்ட்ரியெல்லாம் வந்து இந்த ஊர் ஹிஸ்ட்ரி நம்மளுக்கு நிறைய தெரியாது. ஸோ அதுக்கு தான் கைடு வச்சுருக்காங்க. ஸோ அவங்க நல்லா எக்ஸ்பிளைன் பண்ணுவாங்க அதை.
Please subscribe to my mum channel.